Hey guys, so my microphone decided that it doesn't like recording good quality audio for some reason. That's the microphone I specifically bought to record good quality audio. So I'm gonna try my gaming headset mic and see if that is any better. So we'll see how this goes. So let's get right into book 2, which I enjoyed as much, if not more, than the first book. I like books that don't have a breakneck pace, that they give characters time to actually digest, process, talk about what's going on. Please, for the love of God, let your characters talk and figure things out amongst themselves. So in the comic prologue, the girls basically recap the first book and reveal that Elion has been missing for a few days. Haylin leaves early because her grandma isn't feeling well. In Chapter 1, Will reflects on how things have changed since the move and how she keeps her old house keys on her keychain. She debates with herself for a bit before promising herself to take the old keys off if she finds the correct ones on the first try. And she does. She finds the correct ones on the first try. Throughout this book, it's just finally sinking in that this new town that she moved to could really be a home, and maybe even better than the place she left. Yeah, moving is such a hard thing for a kid to process, because your world is so small. So when you move, your entire world shifts. And it's disorienting, and you lose your friends, and you have to start all over, and you don't have the experience and connections you have as an adult. It can be traumatic, honestly. And I think this book does a really good job of showing that with Will's early arc. Another prevailing theme in this book is that the girls don't really know what to do with all this new info and powers. They don't know what to do with the fact that they're guardians and magical girls, and that there's a whole separate dimension that's trying to take over this one. They're just overwhelmed by all of it. So they're kind of hanging out in Will's apartment among all the boxes that still are not opened, like a week after. I think it's about a week after Will and her mom first moved in. Cordelia is really annoying in this book. She's bitching at everyone, and I know it's like a coping mechanism, like she's in fight mode, but it still can get kind of irritating to read, even if I know that she's just kind of processing things. There's a power outage and Tarani uses fireballs as light. I vividly remember this scene. Again, all the girls' powers are like so fun to imagine having as a kid. And also Tarani's magic fire doesn't burn, which is great because you don't have to worry about Will's house burning down after they just moved in. So Will shows off her talking fridge, which is an offshoot of her powers. She can talk to appliances and even power them with magic. So the fridge is like a very posh, proper butler, and the computer and printer are an old married couple who are constantly bickering, which makes sense. Mine give each other the silent treatment. Yeah, if printer and computer are an old married couple, then my phone is a side piece, because my printer will only talk to my phone, even though it's hooked up to both the phone and the computer. Also, Will's old TV set is a boomer, and I love that Irma secretly likes documentaries, because the TV is like, no, you are watching this documentary about bears, and Irma's like, fine, and then she actually gets really into it. Tarani reveals that she's more scared than she let on, but she really only feels comfortable confiding in Will. Cornelia suggests that they train with their new powers, which is a great idea, if only the plot didn't get in the way. Will's mom comes home and Tarani panics before figuring out that she can put out the fireballs by blowing on them. And she remembers that conjuring the fireballs made her feel warm, which is a running theme in especially these early books, where they talk about how the power feels to each girl, and it feels different depending on the element. Tarani's fire powers make her feel warm, and then later on, Haylin describes her air powers as making her feel light and buoyant, which I always imagine to be like if you're driving over a hill and you're stomach does that funny flip thing. I imagine that's what using air powers feels like. So anyway, they get everything back to normal at the very last second, and Will's mom is none the wiser. She's like, "Oh, hi, Will and Will's friends. Yay, my daughter's making friends." Chapter 3 abruptly shifts the mood as Haylin hyperfixates on the sidewalk cracks to delay going home. And I love that little detail, like when you know you're going to be walking into some bad situation. You know, like if you're going home and you know you're in trouble, so you just kind of take the longest way home possible. She overhears the doctor saying her grandma was exhausted for fighting off a flu and there's nothing that he can do because of her age. That what she needs most is family time. So when Yanlin, Haylin's grandmother, is alone with her, the grandmother asks to see her powers, and Haylin shows her. Yanlin is upbeat and, well, grandmotherly. Yanlin is more concerned about Haylin and her friends, the other guardians, than Yanlin's own health. She gives Haylin a map of the 12 portals that is activated by magic, and she says they'll have to close each one. If I remember correctly, sometimes the villains will like open up more portals, but I don't quote me on that. We'll see how that goes. They just kind of drop this in and then never expand on it, but apparently there's microscopic otherworldly creatures that are guarding Yonlin from evil. Can we get like a spin-off of that, like magical cells at work? So that's the thing that just exists in this world, I guess. Also, the temple floats in a silvery substance lighter than air and purer than water. And I have no idea what that means, but it sounds cool. So the oracle listens as Yonlin tells Haylin that she was once a guardian too. She's interrupted by Haylin's father imploring Yonlin to take her meds. And the little argument / banter that's going on makes Haylin feel bad for Grandma. So the oracle sends some comfort her way. He closes the viewing orb and says that Yonlin's purpose is complete and she would pass away soon and come to Kanjakar. An oracle can kind of tell what's going to happen, but can't really influence it. He seems to be able to have some minor control over things, like he can affect people's emotions to a certain extent and some things like that, but his role seems to be mainly as an observer. But he also might have a bit more power than we are shown. I'm very curious about what the role of Kanjakar is in this whole universe. It's very mysterious and intriguing. Cornelia is at Yonlin's funeral, and it's a traditional Chinese funeral with everybody dressed in white. Cornelia thinks about how the power and responsibility that has been passed down through generations, how she will have to pass that on to another unsuspecting kid if they don't end this war right now, which is shockingly mature coming from a 13-year-old. Cornelia seems to be a little bit more grown up than the rest of the group, or it could be that this is an adult writing a child. I don't know. But I like that this is addressed. This is something that I also like in Amors, where they acknowledge the full weight of the consequences, long-term and short-term, of the war. Although that happens in Amors more towards the end of the series, when the kids are a little older and a little more experienced. It's interesting that we're getting hints of this earlier on in Witch. It's like a short line, but it jumps out at me and makes me think. Again, I really like the interiority of the characters in this book. I saw somewhere on YouTube, I'll find the link and put it in the description or something, that there's an interview with the author of the novelizations, and she said that's something that she really wanted to focus on was the girls in her life, and I think she did a really good job of that. So Cornelia remembers that a few days ago police were at school looking for a missing kid called Andrew Hornby, one of Irma's many crushes. Then the principal calls Haylin to inform her of her grandmother's passing, and we're back to the present. Cornelia wishes she could magic away the pain of her and her friends, and she reflects on how she needs to be in control, and right now she feels powerless. And that's why she's getting so angry. That is a really hard feeling to deal with when it comes to any major life change. And especially like when you're a teenager and things are changing around you, but you're still technically a kid, so you don't have any rights or powers in the situation to affect that change. You just have to react and adapt to it. and if like it can leave you really feeling trapped in like a caged animal, and I do not miss being a teenager at all. And on top of all this, poor Cornelia also has nobody to talk to about Elion, because she was closer to Elion than the rest of the girls, and Elion's been missing and she's been worried about that. But Elion also kind of led them into the trap and kind of betrayed them. So as she's thinking about this, Halen says she sees Elion watching from a distance. Chapter 6. Elion watches from a distance. She realizes that she hasn't felt cold since leaving her home world, because to her, Midamore is just this perfect paradise where the weather is always nice and there's like birds in the trees and the air smells like flowers and stuff. But she kind of misses having winter and storms and stuff, but she just kind of shakes that memory away and it goes away concerningly fast. And this happens a couple times in this point of view chapter, which makes me think there's some brainwashy stuff going on, some sort of memory alteration, that somebody's like suppressing her true feelings. And we later learn that Cedric has been like right behind her this whole time, which makes me think that he's behind it. Since disappearing, Elion's gotten a bit sadistic. She turns invisible once Halen spots her, and then all the girls go looking for her. She reveals herself, then she goes away again, and she enjoys feeling the girls' hope rise and then die, which is supremely messed up. And we learn that her kind of magical ability is she can like sense and hear everything going on in the environment around her, which is just like uber autism. Like, that's so autism coded. I love it. It is a Sunday, and Will is like, oh, come on, why am I up early? I am always up early on the days I can stay in. That's relatable. But at least her mom is making waffles, which is a good excuse to get up early. They tease each other and read different sections of the newspaper, as is their morning routine, and she imagines how life would be if her mom knew about her powers. While she's kind of daydreaming, she accidentally crumples her newspaper and decides that it's time to get some air. One funny thing about this scene is she worries about getting grounded for having magical powers. Like, girl, you have magical powers. Your parents cannot keep you in your room if you have magical powers. Such is teenager logic. So Will wishes that the kids at school could see her cool guardian self and not her real self. But then she realizes that her friends did see her real self and they liked her. That scene made me feel a lot of things. So I've been dealing with body dysmorphia. Like, I feel like my own self-concept of what I look like is more attractive than what I look like in real life. I spent a lot of time worrying about my weight and, I don't know, my face shape and neck shape and all that kind of stuff. So I sometimes forget that people don't know about my internal self-image. They only see me as I am, which is both terrifying, but also there's people who see that and still like me and sometimes still find me attractive. So Will is having a good day, but then she runs into Uriah and his cronies, who are trying to hunt down a dormouse to put in Martin's locker. The dormouse bites Uriah, who goes to kill it, but then Will intervenes. Before it can come to blows, Nigel steps in and de-escalates. Will pets the dormouse and it bites her. Poor thing. And then somebody comes up behind her trying to help, and she punches his foot, basically thinking he's Uriah, and then she turns around and is like, oh, it's Matt Olson, the cute boy that everybody was fawning over in the last book. So after that awkward meet cute, Matt helps her care for the dormouse and sends it home with her. His grandpa owns a pet shop and he helps out, so he knows a lot about animals. He gives her his number in case she needs help with the dormouse. Painful to read. It was painful then and it's painful now. Like, talking to people that you are attracted to is always such a, like, I've never been good at flirting or dating or anything, so that awkwardness, it's real. In chapter 8, Irma stresses over a Monday outfit because apparently Sheffield has this unspoken dress code where Your super cool clothes are for Wednesdays, and Mondays are when you have to look kind of slouchy, like you've had a very fun, exhausting weekend, but not so slouchy that it doesn't look like you put in effort. Like you have to look kind of frumpy and tired, but not too frumpy and tired, because you don't want to look like a slob, but you also want to look like you had a lot of fun over the weekend, which I've never noticed any sort of unspoken dress code like that in school. So can somebody who actually had a social standing in school tell me if there was some sort of unspoken dress code that I just wasn't following? So Irma banters a bit with her dad and then notices Andrew's face on the milk carton. Remember that? Remember when they used to put the faces of missing children on milk cartons? I saw a documentary about that a bit ago. Maybe I should find that and put that in the description. Let's see how many of these I actually remember to put in the description, considering the last video I forgot to even use a visual aid that I explicitly referenced in the audio. Yeah, I'm great at this, can you tell? Irma wishes that she could tell her dad what she knows, but decides it's a bad idea. At school, Irma and her friends theorize that the two disappearances are connected, but Irma reveals that she's the one who disappeared Andrew. She transformed into her guardian form to impress him at a party. He tried to kiss her against her consent, and she turned him into a toad. The girls laugh at this. It's interesting, they're worrying about the heavy, long-term consequences of being guardians, but they're not worried about the heavy, long-term consequences of turning a living human being with a family into a toad. Sure, maybe the kid is a jerk, but his parents are probably thinking he's dead at this point. An interesting dichotomy going on there. In Chapter 9, Tarani pictures herself in Irma's place doing what she did, transforming into her guardian form to go to a party, and she quickly decides that she does not have the kind of confidence to pull that off yet. Will has a dizzy spell. Constantly, she always is having dizzy spells. Will has a dizzy spell and Elion appears to them. She goes through a wall and the girls follow, ditching class. Cornelia earth-shapes a hole in the wall as a shortcut, but she can't figure out how to close it, which is an interesting contrast to Tarani, who could actually figure that out. I wonder if that's because Tarani's more in touch with her emotions? I don't know, but figuring out how to undo their powers or control them seems to be the problem that the girls face. They can tap into and unleash their powers, but keeping them under control and reversing their effects is taking more time. Kind of like how you can learn to get started riding a bike, but sometimes learning to brake properly without hurting yourself is a little hard. So the girls rush to Elion's house. Tarani is my mom is the judge and my dad's a lawyer, so she knows all the laws that they're breaking and gets kind of worried. And then Cornelia's well, do you want to stay outside? And Tarani's hell no. They go and they follow some footprints into the basement, with Tarani lighting the way. Being able to summon the fire and everything, it gives her the courage to continue on. In Chapter 10, Cornelia thinks back and remembers that Elion's parents were unremarkable, so she has no clue or lead as to what's going on with Elion. Then Elion appears and calls the girls to her. She disappears through another wall where they find a sealed door. Cornelia is hesitant about opening it because she doesn't like that magic is so hard for her to control, which is probably why she suggested training earlier. It's kind of like the give the kid thing of if I'm not immediately perfect at this, then I don't want to do it. Not exactly like that, but eventually she summons her courage and moves the door. She sees a symbol on it, but they don't have any reference for what the symbol might mean, but I'm sure it'll be important later. They emerge into a cave and the map in Halen's pocket activates, and yep, it's a portal. A wall forms, separating them from Halen, and Cornelia wonders if Elion is behind this. She decides that if she has to choose, she will save Halen, and the decision empowers her. Being betrayed by a friend like that at any age hurts so much. I think more than a romantic betrayal. Friendships are important, man. And especially with a best friend and that at that age, it's like you know all the dirt about each other. You had sleepovers and you've talked about like crushes and maybe like first periods and stuff. For her to like betray them to this evil monster guy like that. Like, ouch. But then because you have all those experiences, those shared experiences, it's hard to completely let go of the affection and care that you have for the person. Even if you know logically that you should want nothing to do with them. And I think Cornelia is kind of dealing with that right now, and I think that's portrayed really well here. Chapter 11, not a whole lot happens plot-wise, it's just Halen panicking because she's separated from her friends and Elion's trying to tempt her into giving up. But that quick summary really does not, like, this chapter has some really good writing that I just want to share with you because I think it's some of the best prose that I've read in this series so far. There was no way around it. Halen was trapped, alone. Drawing in a deep, shuddery breath, Halen screamed one last time. She cried, throwing herself against the wall. The bricks were cold and smooth like a reptile's scales, but they were also hard, unyielding, impenetrable. Halen couldn't hear a single sound from the other side of the wall. It was as if her friends had suddenly just been swallowed up. "What are you afraid of, Halen?" The voice, Elion's voice, was right behind her. Halen felt beads of sweat break out on her forehead. She hadn't thought anything could be worse than being trapped in this brick-lined crypt by herself, but she'd been wrong. Sharing this dank, forbidding space with the ghost of Elion was much, much worse. Barely able to breathe now, Halen refused to turn around and face Elion's creepy, blank stare. She clawed at the bricks in the new wall. The rough mortar tore bloody gashes in her palms and sliced through her fingernails. But Halen didn't care. She only wanted to get out, out, out! Damn, that chapter was way more emotional than it had any right to be, and it really sets the scene of how horrific this whole situation is. In Chapter 12, Will feels the magic bonds between the Guardians. Cornelia tries to close the portal, but a brick tentacle attacks her. Walls spread out, separating the other girls. Will is catapulted up and clinging to the edge of the cliff. As she's about to fall, she realizes she can hear everyone else's thoughts. Elion is tempting all of them into giving up. She tries to reach out to the other Guardians, but is pulled away before she can, and when she finally climbs up to solid ground, she summons the heart. With the magic surge of the girls' transformations, the tunnel returns to its natural state. Okay, update. So I just did go to Second and Charles and found another better copy of book 2. This one even has the trading card inside, which I thought was really neat. I'm afraid to take it out of the packaging and look at it closer though. Anyway, so yeah, my copy was missing a bunch of pages from the end. It doesn't just end in the middle of the fight scene. It basically just wraps everything up and shows everybody busting out of their brick prisons and saying, yeah, we're powerful. And then we find out that Halen, for some reason, did not transform. And she just comes out of her prison just terrified and upset and relieved to see her friends. And like they all hug her and then they blast Vathek back into Metamor. It's very interesting that Halen did not transform. Did the fear and grief form a sort of mental block? Or is there something else going on? Did Elion mess with the magic or something? Also, Elion said something very cryptic about being too late or something before disappearing. This is a fascinating mystery and I cannot wait to see how this unfolds. I have a bunch of theories and half-remembered things that from when I read it as a kid. Very interested to see where this goes. So yeah, I really like this book, and one last little thought that I've noticed throughout just even the first 2 books was this ongoing theme of the girls being able to kind of feel each other or feel other people around them. The Oracle being able to feel the emotions of the people that he's spying on. Just in general, there's a lot of like empathic abilities or empathy in general being shown. Even like non-magical empathy of like looking at somebody and being able to read them. Like I really like that running theme. It's an important part of the series, and it's something that a lot of books that, especially modern books, they just feel like very closed off as far as emotions and emotional communication. And like I read because I want to feel things. So I love the emphasis on empathy. That was not a great turn of phrase. I'm sorry. So now I'm going to read book 3, and I'll get back to you when I am done with that. In the meantime, obligatory like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, bye. Okay, real quick, I have to go work in like literally 5 minutes, but I just had a thought. So it's mentioned in this book that Tarani feels most at home in her photography darkroom, and I love that she's a photographer. And I've worked in a darkroom before, and I just had this thought. So she makes those fire lights. What if she at one point learns to control the color spectrum of the lights and their brightness? Because in the dark room that I worked at and that I used in college for a semester, we had these really dim red lights that we used for not bumping into chemicals and stuff, that they were dim and red enough to not like overexpose the film, as long as the film was kept out of them for long enough. So I wonder if at one point like the light bulbs go out in the dark room and Hermione just like makes little fire lights, little dim red fire lights in her dark room. I think that would be just so cute. Okay, I'm gonna go to work now. See you later.